Hi guys, I'm ExactChaos and welcome to a brand new, probably not big series, but let's try or let's have a look at a new game, Subway Builder, which is not on Steam yet. It's coming to Steam in 2026. It's currently just available on the developer's website, subwaybuilder.com, I think. So pretty easy to get your hands on it. You can buy it right over there. It's still in beta, and it is kind of just released, and there's a roadmap for improvements. But I think if you enjoy games like Mini Metro and so on, it'll be quite a good one. This one is pretty cool, I must say. So let's get straight into it. At the moment, it uses real world data like OpenStreetMaps and a variety of kind of demographic data sets, but basically it's kind of trying to give you the real world city environment that are these cities, and then you can try and build something. So let's get a city that's not maybe some of the biggest, highest density ones, but still has a reasonable population. These 2 million ones, very spread out, might be very difficult. Let's do something like Washington, D.C. I think it's got a little bit of medium density in Washington, D.C. I don't know Washington, D.C. Haven't been there. But I think it's got a bit of medium density, at least in the inner city areas. So let's use that one. Now, we've got two game modes. Normal, which gives you $3 billion to start with, Mediterranean construction prices. And so you basically have to kind of spend the money and then kind of get more money through your operations to do that, which is not quite realistic. I don't think there's many public transport systems in the world that make enough money from operations to continue building or expanding the system, but we'll have a look. And then there's a sandbox mode where you can kind of do whatever you want. We'll go with the normal mode. It's a fairly lightweight game, so it can run on pretty much anything. So here we go. This is Washington, D.C., and you can zoom out and you can see it's got a fairly large region available to play. Right. And then what it does do, it gives you this kind of data. So if we look at the demand stats, residents is these ones. If we zoom in a little bit, the bigger blobs here are effectively the kind of larger density of people. And then we've got the employment opportunities. So we can see tons of employment right over here, down here, a little bit, a blob over there, a blob over there. A few little clusters of employment out this way, a few big blobs down here. And so basically you need to connect these two things together, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, where it gets really exciting is when you actually start building some stuff, right? So let's go and look into the construction mode. So if you zoom in here, you can see the kind of street grid from the OpenStreetMaps, I believe. And you can see it's kind of the real world city. There's the White House over there, Washington, D.C. Now, if we wanted to start, so we can build tracks, stations, and add crossovers. We can do single, parallel, or quad tracks. We can set the elevation, which is super cool. We can choose between heavy metro and light metro. We'll start with light metro as a starting point. Now, if you were to build a track like that at -5, you see that we'll be running straight through a lot of buildings. And I guess that is the intent here, right? So if we do that, we can see that. So if we were to put that at grade, you see we can't even run it across roads, right? Because the roads is, in the way. So even this won't work, okay? Track intersects with roads at 50 points, go deeper, -5. Elevate tracks to 4.5 or adjust, okay? So that's the other option. So let's go above ground. And here we can see we can go straight over the top at 0.8 the cost of going underground. So cut and cover, and then tunnel, and then we go to standard tunnel deeper, which is double the cost. And you go down to deep bore, which is 4.5 times the cost. And if we go up, let's just see if there's anything on the other side. So if we go up, so at grade is the most cost effective, as it is in the reality. And if we go higher, it doesn't really matter how high we go. It's still pretty cost effective to go over the top. Okay. So let's go back down to, say, 10 meters. That gives us a pretty nice little nice little depth. And if you go here, you can see you still have an issue. Now, if you go even deeper, so let's do 15 meters, for instance, and we run through now we can see we don't have any issues. We can run underneath buildings. So I guess that is where some of the nuance of this game lies, is how do you interact with the city that already exists? Let's go at 10, start at a one times cost, and plan a little bit for ourselves. Now, if we go to the demands, not residents but workers, we can see got a ton of demand kind of running through here. I think we'll cover most of it if we run some tracks through there. Now, this is beta. It's just been released, so there's still some little issues with how we could potentially, or how things interact. And I think there's plenty of room for improvement in some things. We'll have a bit of a look. So if we go build stations at -10, we can do a quad track station, but I haven't found it works really well. So I think we'd rather, what we'll do is let's just go with parallel track stations, because the quad track stations don't see. Oh, actually, maybe what we'll do is let's build the quad track stations and see, maybe we can figure some stuff out. So let's make our first station over here in the roadway, not under the building. So we won't want to spend 300 million to remove that building there. So we'll do our first one there. Then we'll do our second one right here in front of the White House. And we'll do our third one, yeah, probably about here, because let's go a little bit more forward. So something like that. I think that's about equidistant, right? So about equidistant. This one is probably a little bit further, but then that one. Did we want to take it? So if we go delete track and we get rid of that one. The reason I kind of like that is because we can do some crossroads here, basically, and that building is going to be in the way. So I guess I'd rather just cross it over here. So I guess back to what we planned initially, but we'll try and have it at that kind of edge of it. Okay, so we'll do it over there. So then at least we could run something else in there. Now, the reason I'm kind of doing this is because I think these are our crossover stations for a number of different potential lines. The Washington layout is quite interesting with this kind of radial star-like pattern of big arterial roads. So that gives us opportunity to run quite a comprehensive network of stuff in here, and we'll play around with that a little bit more. Now, we first need to run our first line. So that's kind of going to be our main setup. And we can rename these things, I believe. So if we, oh no, don't do that. If we click on this guy, I think it'll be later. We can't do it right now. Now, the next thing we need to do is build some tracks between these guys, and we'll continue with a quad at about 10 underground. So you can see we can run it under the roadway, no problems. So we'll link those up like so. I'm not sure we can actually, if we go single line, can we tie one to the other? Oh, maybe we can. I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's actively working, right? Or is it actively working? Maybe that's working. We'll test it out. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with that. Now, there seems to be a lot of density down here. I think that's what school from using the OpenStreetMap. So let's go back to demand. Worker demand, resident demand. Yeah, there's a fair bit of high density residential down here. There's a little bit, see, it's very sparse up here. And there's a fair bit up in this direction. So we'll have to have a bit of a look. We don't want to necessarily cross it like that. And then any other workers? So workers goes in here. But we need to find residents. So there's a fair bit of residents up here. There's a little bit coming up this way. It's quite a lot up here, which I think we need to tap into. But let's, as a starting point, just go down here. So where does it kind of end? So this is the big cluster. So remember, it's pretty pricey. So we need to kind of be a little bit sparing with our construction. So let's now start building stations. -10, just parallel track. And we'll start it out somewhere over here, say. Kind of starts at the edge there. I think we'll slowly try and find some spots. Now that's going to might be a little bit of an issue. We might want to move it up a little bit. So just let's delete that one. I'll show you now when I start building these curved station or these curved tracks, how that works. Yeah, so I think that might work a little bit better. And then, yeah, this seems like a nice little spot into a bit of a park there. Yeah, it might be a little bit close together there. And what we'll do is we'll build another one, say over here. Well, where shall we? Let's do it over here. So we've got a little bit more room to maneuver. And then we'll switch over to the other side. Here, I think that's going to be a little easier on the routing. Where do we have options to go to? Okay, so let's that one's curling back in a little bit, which is not quite ideal. We also don't want a 90-degree turn. So I guess, is that the last station, or shall we add one more kind of right here on the edge? Let's bring it back a little bit. It's a little bit close together. We may, if we're going to put it here, we may need to make it a little deeper though. So if I did this, right, I don't mind that spot. And then we want to tie in over there. So do we give ourselves one more station? I think so. I think let's try and do something over there so we can pick up some of these other demands. But we'll see how best we tie those together. So I think that's going to be our first line, right? I think that's the plan. I'm going to do a little bit of an overlap of lines in this area because this is where all the density is. But now let's build these lines and we'll see what we're kind of talking about. So if I go straight there, which is the optimal route and the optimal speed, we go straight through those buildings. And if we go deeper, of course, to maintain that speed, it's a bit more costly. So I guess what we'll do is here we're trying to snake it around a little bit. And obviously that gives us a little bit of a slowdown around that curve there. Yeah, this one should be pretty straight and easy. They're pretty close together, these stations. Now, here we need to snake our way a little bit. I think like that, and then like this should be fine. Yeah, it slows down again. This will slow down a little bit, I think. Ooh, that might be a little tight. Let's trim that back and see if we can do a little bit better here. Want to get into the actual. Oh yeah, that's way better. Way better. We should be able to do that and then tie it in like this. Oh, 50. Anyway, that's okay. That's not too bad. I don't mind if it slows down there just a tad. We'll curve it there a little bit and then we'll try and tie it in over there. Nice. Now we do have an extra station there. Now, if we now go deeper, because let's quickly look at this again. So if I go and say we do that and tie it in there, right, we can see that we're taking out 100 million worth of buildings right there. But if we go, let's say deeper, so if we go to maybe 12, is 12? Yeah, 12 works, right? So if we do that, we need to go deep like that, and then we need to go, well, actually now we can up it to 10 and go back there, and that works quite well. So that's just a little section of 12 over there to make that work. Now we run this section in here, and I guess this is where I'm kind of wondering. So if we tie those in, right? Now my question is, can I do this? It seems I could potentially do that. So let's do that. And this one. Oh yeah, that seems to be pretty useful actually. Okay, so we'll leave it there. So that's it. Now, what we do need to do is we need to also provide some crossovers. Now, what we might want to find is, can we do a crossover here? Yes, we can. And I guess what we also want to try and do is I think yeah. So the interesting thing is the crossovers here don't really want to allow me to do crossovers on the other sides. But what I'll do is I'll do kind of multiple crossovers here. Now, it's probably overkill, but I'd rather have them in place for some planning in the future than not. Okay, so this should be pretty good. So that's fairly straightforward. We need a crossover all the way on the other side as well. Like so. Okay. Now, let's have a quick look. So that is our first line. Zoom out. That should give us a fair bit of action at the start. Nice tunnel under the river over here. And we're going into kind of the CBD business area there with all the employment opportunities. Now, let's quickly have a look at the cost. This is almost $1 billion. It's $900 million worth of infrastructure. And we can have a look at the cost, cancel the blueprints, etc. And now what we can basically do, well, all those crossovers is costing us quite a bit. Anyway, it doesn't matter too much. Let's build these blueprints. That's our very first construction project done. And you can see our money has dropped by $900 or odd million to $2 billion, from 3 to 2 approximately. Now, we need to do our very first line. So here we go into the routing section. We'll say add a route. We'll choose this to be the blue line. And we'll call it route A. No. Yeah, I think let's just start with that. And this is going to be light metro. And we'll create the route. And now we go here and we say, okay, so line A, let's edit the route and add some stations. So the plan is we'll add some stations and you'll have to add all the platforms they stop at. So I'll go all the way out here. Road Street, Wilson Boulevard, K Street, which we want to change some names over here. Now, can we? Oh, we can't get in there. Oh, we can't. So this whole thing doesn't work. You can get in there, and we'll run it straight down the middle. And this is my concern. So I guess it doesn't really work as well as I would have liked. Okay, so there we go. So we'll go back out that way. We need to stop on the way back as well. Okay, we'll do that. Yeah, so do leave me some comments down below about this game. Is that something you would be keen on? But we'll get into the mechanics a little bit more. So there we go, there we go. And we're all the way back at Fairfax Drive over here. So that is our first line, the A line, which is in color blue. We'll confirm those changes, and now we've got a line. Now we need to put some trains on this line. Now, what you can see over here, we do have to set our train configuration. So at the moment, we're doing 2 cars per train, which has a capacity of 400,000. We can also scale that up to 4. And I think on light metro, we can only do 2 and 4 options, right? So either 400 per train or 800 per train, but you can see a significant, well, not significant, but some difference in terms of the operational cost. We'll start off with the 2 cars. Okay, now we need to buy trains and set our service frequency for certain times of day. So high demand is effective at hours 6 to 10 and 3 to 8, all right? So peak hours, commuter traffic. And then medium demand is 4 to 6 a.m., 10 to 3, and then 8 to 10. And then low demand is all the other times, right? So let's grab ourselves some trains. So we're doing 2 cars per train. So now we have to do train car purchases. We can only do 2 at a time. So let's go with two of them. So we'll do 4 train cars we'll buy. And now we're saying at 2 cars per train, we'll do 2 during the peak. We can use those same cars to do this demand period, and we'll also do 1 in the low demand. So we'll do 2. So we'll effectively run a 14-minute frequency in the high demand periods, and then in the medium demand, 28 minutes, and the low demand, 28 minutes. And this is the stuff that you're going to have to play with to see how that goes. So there we go. Our first setup is done. Cost us about a billion. And now we can start the game, and we can speed things up to start seeing things here. Oh, hang on. It slowed down a little bit. So there we go. It is just after midnight. We've got a single train running as per our schedule. And here we can see people coming to the stations, and we're starting to give them a little bit of love here, getting them to their places. We can see some of them are walking quite a distance to get there. And I believe these are like clusters of passengers, right? So if I click here, it's telling me 274 passengers at the station. So it's a number of people there. Oh, what I wanted to do is I wanted to rename these stations a little bit. So if I do that, Oh, we can flip the street. So this one is probably 16th Street and that one is K. But what I will do is let's just call this Central. I want to call this Central. I have no idea if that is the areas or what. And then Northeast. So Central East. We'll call this um, Central East, and we'll call the other one Central West. Because the reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to run multiple lines in here. Central West. We'll see about that. So again, this is something that's pretty cool. It's the kind of stuff I do in my day-to-day day job. I do plan transport networks, including public transport networks. So this is the kind of stuff we do. We have much more complex models that we use, but it's pretty cool though. I kind of like it. Gives people an actual understanding of how this kind of system works. Now we see some warnings over here. One train at or near capacity, and then it's gone away because it's only at capacity for a little while. Well, at 4 a.m. in the morning, it means that we're probably going to run into trouble very, very quickly. Yeah, so we even stations are filled. So I guess we need to probably look at adding a little bit of capacity. We can also see that trains pass by, leaving people here. So let's have a look and see if we can up our capacity a little bit. Let's buy another 4 train sets. We'll buy that, and we'll up this to 4. Okay, so that's a pretty decent frequency. We'll up this one to 2, and that one we will stay at 1. Now, I don't necessarily want to increase the capacity. At this point, I'd rather increase the frequency so that people can just kind of rock up and go to the station, right? And that's kind of the plan. So spend a little bit more on train sets, but at least now we should be moving people around a little bit quicker. When we really start running out of capacity and the stations are full and the trains are full, then we need to start looking at, and we can't really increase things more effectively. More than 7-minute frequencies is getting a little bit out there for some of these kind of networks. Maybe you can go to about 3 or 4 minutes, but any quicker than that, people can't even load the train between the arrival of the next one. So then you start thinking about going to higher capacity train systems. So now that this is running, and we'll probably need to kind of fast forward a few things a little bit so that we can kind of see the performance of this, and then we'll start planning what is the next one. So I'll fast forward to the end of the day, and then we can have a bit of a look at the kind of financials that came in, and we'll see what we do from there on. Okay, and now we've gone on to the next day. It's 1 a.m. on the next day. So let's quickly have a look at our finances so we can have a little bit of an hourly breakdown of what's happened. So we can see we're doing amazingly well from an operational perspective. Obviously, if we look at the budget over here, we spent a lot on construction. Oh, no, we spent, hourly, obviously. If we look at daily, we can see we spent almost $1 billion on construction. If we go back to hourly, we can see nothing on construction in the last hour or so. So financial summary, 24 hours overview. It's a little interesting because I thought the 24 hours overview would actually have some construction. Anyway, if we look at the operational revenue versus expenditure, we can see that we're actually pretty good running a profit all through our operational window, right? Making some good money. So as you can see, from 1 train to 2 or 3 trains, you can see the difference in the operating cost there. And obviously, we need to claw this money back through operating revenue, people paying their fares. And so we can see that we're actually doing pretty good. If we look at our operational profit, it is pretty green down here. Now, here's the expense breakdown. So there was the construction costs, train operations, train purchases. No construction cost in here. I'm still a little wondering about it. Maybe it was the day before. It can't be. Maybe before we even started playing, so it doesn't count. Anyway, if we now go to daily, we can see that on our first day, we had a revenue of 30 million and expenses of 8.5 million. And so that gives us a 22 million odd, a 22 million odd profit, which is a pretty good number for a public transport system. I can tell you that much. So anyway, there we go. So that is our options. Here you can see we can change the pricing. So $3 or whatever, more or less. So anyway, that gives us our our very first day. So now we can run that. Now, if we go back to the demands now, I'll keep it running so we can make some money. But look at it now. Now we've got all kinds of color coding here. And I guess it's trying to tell us who's driving, who's walking, who's using transit, right? So we can see transit users, transit users. I don't quite get what this is unless it's kind of partially driving, partially transit. Maybe that's what these purple ones are and pink ones are. I guess there's still a little bit of work in terms of the guidance coming through here. If we look at driving, here we can see, so here we can see there's still a component of these people that's driving. So I guess that's what those funny color codes are looking at. So here we can still see there's still like 100% of people driving from here. And it's because I guess we're not really connecting all employment opportunities together. There's just a big cluster over here that we're picking up. Walking. So here we can see lots of people actually walking in this area, a little bit more walking down here next to our stations. Not sure what that is kind of telling us. And then from a transit perspective, we can see where do we find our big transit users. So some big clusters over here, a little bit over there, and some over there. So a lot of opportunity for us to pick up on more stuff. Now, if we go to the workers side of things, interesting. So if we look at transit, very few people of the workers are actually using transit. Still driving is predominant. So let's just go back to all modes. So here we can see, so still, we're picking up a lot of employment opportunities along the way here. Pentagon? Yeah, looks like it. Lots of employment opportunities in here that we're picking up. But from a resident perspective, yes, we are, but there's still so many areas that we need to expand into. So now let's have a bit of a look at what would our second line look like. It could be an extension out to this way, but I'm worried that there's not a super big, the blobs aren't super big. There's some big blobs. There's not a lot of big blobs up here either. So we're going to have to be a little bit, maybe we just run this guy all the way to where? Where do we find some big blobs? Yeah, all the way down, maybe to here, maybe to there. Problem is, this is like single family dwellings. It's not really high density enough to be looking at metro systems and the likes. If I zoom it out a little bit, we'll get a little bit of a better view of the blobs. Yeah, we've got some big blobs down here and up there. So a line up here could be really good. A line out here won't be too bad, and it's going to be a bit easier to tie in with what we've got. But maybe what we need to look at, there's some stuff down there. Something down this way. Up there is pretty good. That's a pretty good line, but we're not going to go that far. We don't have we don't have endless supplies of money at the moment. We're busy bringing that number back up, but I guess for this game it'll take a lot of time. There's a bit of a corridor down here, and that's the airport. So we bit of a golf course in there. So I guess maybe let's look at a bit of a corridor through here. So if we continue along this one and then run in through here, at least we can pick up quite a few, and then we should be able to pick up these guys here, and then maybe we run it down here to terminate it somewhere over here, I think, before it gets really small. Maybe all the way down here. Maybe that's a separate line. Maybe we just run straight into there and terminate about this spot to try and pick up this guy as well. These two guys. Yeah. I guess let's do that. So okay, now let's have a bit of a look. So if we're going to add some more stations, so let's grab building more stations again with the light 10 meters underground, and we'll try and keep them spaced appropriately, and we'll try and continue to run straight up here. So we want them not too close together, I guess, but also not too far apart. We want it just right. So if we were to then run one down there, run one down this way, and we probably need one over here. There was a bit of a few big blobs over there. What did we want to? I need to switch on the other one again. I think we coming down here and then running that way. So let's go back into the demand window. Yeah, we're coming up to here. So we're going to down there and then coming up to that spot there. So let's actually start with the end in mind. This one here, right over here, I guess. And it'll be easy for us to extend it in the future if we wanted to. So I'm guessing maybe just one more station in between. And we need to see how we run this one through there. There might be a little bit of a gap to run it straight through there. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So I guess that looks reasonable. Now let's start building some tracks. Again, so if we do that and just cut it straight in there, we'll see we'll have some issues. So I'm guessing what I want to do. Oh, I see. I want to do that. And I want, oh, beautiful. That's really good. Really good. That's a really nice little turn into that area there. Now, what we want to do is we want to try and maintain that speed. If it goes straight there, one building, have 2.9 million. I think it's kind of worth it because it's a longer shot. Try and give it an S curve in there, and 2.9 million is it's the cost of a train, right? So maybe that's an okay one. It's not quite what I would like to do. Yeah, that's pretty good. So this line can actually operate at a pretty reasonable speed here if we do this. So we run through there, no problems. Okay, this is going to be a little bit problematic. 60 is not too bad. That is actually pretty good. And then we'll run straight through there and straight through here. And now we've got a building in the way. Okay, so what are we doing here? Right. So let's actually start it from the other side. We'll go deeper again. 12 might do the trick. So let's do that. So 12 gets us straight through the other side. We'll just go a little deeper, then we go shallower again. So back to the same construction cost, and we'll finish that one off. So straight through there, and that gives us a nice little line extension. Now, if we look at the cost here, we can see this is about 650. We've got about a 3 million cost on one building that we're demolishing. So, and we forgot to add our crossovers. So where do we have crossovers? We've got a crossover not over here. So we'll add one on that side just in case we want to use it. And then we'll add one all the way on the other side, right? Now, I'm kind of wondering whether I should take that out, but I'd rather not. Let's leave it there. Take out that one building for 3 million, and then we'll see about that. Okay, so there we go. Now, back to the cost. Now, it's a little bit more expensive because of the extra crossovers, 12 million per crossover. So let's build those blueprints. Gets us down to 1.5 billion. And now let's add a line, right? So we go back in here. We'll grab, we got route groups, right? So we'll keep, this will be a blue line as well. And we'll call that the B line, A and B. Okay, so, and now we'll edit the route and add some stops to it. We'll start it off from the other side. So let's say it starts on here, and then we go back, go back, go back. I'm hoping we'll get some reasonable demand from here because it's a pretty pricey little section. They're all pretty pricey, to be honest. There's no super cheap sections. Now, we're running in here, and we're going to do an overlap, right? So we're going in there, we're going in there, and we're going in there. And then we're coming back out this way, back out that way, and then all of these stations. So we're running an overlap at those central stations so that you can go to any one of those central stations and get there. But obviously that makes the station a lot busier, but it also allows us to get people to where they want to go without necessarily doing a transfer. Let's confirm those changes. If we look at trains, I think we want to try and run a similar pattern. So we're going to do, let's go back and go and look at A. From a train's perspective, we're running 2 car sets, 4, 2, and 1. Now, let's have a look 4, 2, and 1. If we go to B and we go to trains and we say, oh, we'll have to buy, so we're going to buy at least 2, right? So let's do 4. So we'll do that. 15 minutes. Yeah. So I'm guessing we're going to want to do at least another 4. So we can run this one. Yeah. So that's about exactly the same. So let's leave that in place. And now we'll start running again. When you do changes to the routes, you start seeing stuff like that, where well, it pauses. It pauses when you do changes to routes. Okay, so now we're running 2 different lines of the blue variety. You can see we're already, we still have some potential capacity issues on these lines. I need to pause it because this guy changes so quickly I can barely touch it. Okay, B, let's just open that up again. So we can see that we've got some, minor issues. I wouldn't, flashes of at or near capacity for a few minutes is really not something we need to necessarily action. But now we can also start to have a bit of a look at which of our lines as what kind of ridership. Obviously, B has just opened up. I wouldn't necessarily expect it to have as much as A, but hopefully we'll get a reasonable number in there as well. And obviously now you have the ability to go from all the way to there to all the way there, but you will need to transfer at one of these stations. And hopefully the double up through here means that you can quite easily move from some of these stations to each other using the overlap of the vehicles, right? So instead of having an 8-minute and a 7-minute from the 2 sides through this area, you might have now a 3 or 4-minute headway, which probably the capacity of a line like this wouldn't really be able to run something through there a little bit quicker if they're using the same platforms. If we can get the outside tracks of the quad platform to be used, then that would be a different story. But at the moment, I've no idea. Can't seem to get this set up to actually work. I would love to get that set up to work so we could run that through there. Why? There's a little bit of a funny business here with the crossover. Oh, it might be. Yeah. It's this one that goes back. Yeah, that's fine. That's exactly how we would be running. It's exactly how we would be running. So anyway, it's starting to look good. Starting to see some passengers pop up here. We've got, day 3, I think, would not necessarily be representative. So we've done 20 million, 20 million, 20 million. So it'd be cool to see what it looks like at the end of day 4. Now that we're running quite a bit more through here. And as it gets busier, hopefully we'll move some more people through and get that ridership number nice and high. So that's pretty cool. So guys, I think I'm going to kind of leave it there as a bit of a starter episode to just have a look at it. We'll wait till the end of the day, but I'll give you my thoughts on this game. I think there's a lot of room for improvement. So if not necessarily improvement, expansion of this game. So if we started to add some additional public transport systems, maybe street-based systems or something like that, or how, just being able to plan interchanges a little bit better. Potentially if we do a crossover station that's higher or lower than this one, can we build a direct connection to it? Something like that would be really cool. Even if that means, demolishing a building or something to make that work. But that would be really cool if we could do that. Would remind me a little bit of something like Cities in Motions from Colossal Order. I think the prerequisite or the precursor to City Skylines actually was from Colossal Order. I played that a bit many years ago. That was pretty cool, where you'd done a similar thing to try and manage demands and so on. But this is pretty cool. I like it. If you like Mini Metro, this is a little bit more complex than that. It's not the kind of burning platform thing, but it's more about trying to achieve larger riderships, getting the numbers to work, all these kind of things. So I guess I will leave it there. I'll just do the one episode right now. And then what I'd be keen on understanding is if you want to see me to continue planning and explaining how I think we plan this out, then let me know, and we can maybe add a few more episodes to the series and see if we can't add a few more lines. There'll be a lot of waiting and fast forwarding in between because now we need to start waiting for our money to come back in. I'm not sure there's a there's anything along the lines of loans or anything like that that we can do. So yeah, just let me know in the comments if you've liked it. Are you going to pick this up yourself? Are you going to wait for it to come to Steam next year? Is this the kind of thing that you would like to see a little bit more of? Then I'd happy to do it. I love this. This is kind of my day job, as I mentioned. So I do love this kind of thing as well, to do this, play around a little bit. Obviously a little bit simple, but it's not as complex as real world issues because there's still some utilities and stuff under roads, which makes it way more complex than this. But and it's not as simple to just build under roads anyway. But anyway, it's a good start in terms of the demands and the costs associated with the construction. What is a little bit unrealistic, I would say. Oh, look at those riderships. What is a little bit unrealistic, I would say, is probably the fact that we're making money from the operational budget. We'd never make billions from a public transport system like this. Charging $3 a trip to get to the abilities to actually extend lines. That's a complete capital cost that is typically funded from elsewhere, not from the operational revenue or profit. So anyway, guys, I think I'll leave it there. Oh, let's just get to the end of the day. We'll have another quick look at our budgets, but I can see that our lines are pretty close. Okay, that's the end of the day. This line is about 2/3 as busy as that line. So in total, we now have about 50,000 daily riders, which is pretty cool. And so let's have a quick look at what these numbers look like. So day 4 would be a little bit more representative. So now we can see our day 4 profits have gone up from 22 million to 34, 35 million. So now you can kind of see how if you're planning it properly and you're expanding without, obviously you can overspend so quickly. If you plan it properly and all of your lines maintain operational profitability, you can continue to build lines and expand it over the network and keep people happy and get more people onto it. Now here we can see there's some construction cost reflected. Oh, and there we've got the construction cost reflected as well. So 900 million for the first line, and then almost 700 million for the second line, and slowly we can see that is starting to give us a daily profit that is actually quite useful. So guys, I will leave it there. That's our one line of infrastructure with 2 operational lines in Washington. And yeah, it's already profitable. And we can see we're already making a fair bit of money. We're starting to get, extra 200 million or so from where we were after building these lines. And so you can see that, wait a few days and you'll be able to build another line, and wait a few days and you'll be able to do another line, and so on. You'll expand, and then that'll just start to snowball, and you'll be able to continuously build lines to kind of pick up everything. It'll probably be a bit of a slow start, and then it'll start speeding up a little bit. If I can look at this, as long as you can get the demands right, of course, you might have to run lines further away into more sparsely populated areas, and so your cost versus your profit will kind of diminish over time for some of these lines. But anyway, that is quite cool. I like it a lot, and I'm going to keep an eye on this to see how it expands. I'm hoping a lot more stuff gets added. I do see in the roadmap that other international cities are also in the planning, so happy to see that, and hopefully we will see some more fun there. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you've liked it, hit that like button. If you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe to the channel. Okay, bye-bye.